Alright, hi there, all you beautiful people. Hope y'all are having an amazing day or night whenever you're watching this. This is my intro to the podcast. This podcast today was actually about systematic. Sorry, it's my cat. He wants to say hello. He felt talkative. This podcast is going to be about systematic oppression. Throughout the video, I do say suppression. I didn't realize that there's a big difference, so I got my vocabulary a bit messed up. Sorry, I was making jalapenos and it's stuffy. This podcast was about systematic oppression. Sorry for not uploading the past couple of days. I was waiting for a MacBook to get here so I could actually edit stuff and put it up. Instead of just putting up pretty bad content. Throughout the video, I talked to a very well-educated professor. I'll go over it in the video. Just go over what systematic oppression is, how you can break free from it. I give him a couple quotes from J. Cole lyrics that I thought kind of hit deep, and it was a good time. I do want to give you a heads up. In the middle of the video, we do have like a little cut where something happened. We had an announcement come on, and I didn't want to include that in. It was kind of annoying, so I went ahead and cut it out. So if y'all notice, it's a little iffy right there. But yeah, it was just a good time, and hope y'all enjoy the video. Coming up, I will have a podcast with two amazing animal lovers about veganism and whether it helps animals or not. I also have 3 interviews that I got from the Dart Station that I have to upload. One of them I'll upload separately. Amazing guy. I think his name was Miguel. I'll have to try to find him again. Really, the definition of love is poison. And then the 2 other ones were just interesting podcasts or interesting videos I recorded with people. Hope y'all enjoy those. Besides that, I will have one coming up with my friend Cruz. We'll be going over our past relationship because we were in a little love triangle for a little bit, and I thought that'd be fun. I have friends from basketball, or Dimitri, one of my friends. He wants to invite some of the basketball people over and kind of go over some stuff. I'll try to figure something out for that one. But besides that, hope y'all enjoy this one, and hope y'all enjoy all the videos to come. All right, welcome back, all you beautiful, lovely people. Hope y'all are having an amazing day out there. For here, I am going to have a well-educated professor. Would you like to tell me your background in education?
Background education, 20 years, secondary education, part-time adjunct, college professor, sociology, family studies, human development, BS in sociology, master's in human development, family studies with my doctorate in family studies. Focus on institutional family within the field of sociology.
As y'all can hear, he is a well-educated man, and since y'all aren't getting to see him, I'm going to go ahead and state the obvious, and he is also an African-American male. Today, our podcast is going to be going over what is systematic suppression, a little bit of evidence of systematic oppression, and how minorities can break free from that. Would you like to give us your definition of systematic oppression?
In general, it is an institutional attempt by rulers of society, the higher-ups, the elites, basically the dominant group in society, to maintain their hold on power, and as a whole is a system that's set up to benefit them and to give an illusion of equality or equal opportunity when there's not an equal opportunity, there's an opportunity, but there are those who have big advantages over others, and so these people who are dominant, what we call a majority is the term in sociology, their job is to maintain their power and to try to preserve the status quo as much as possible by setting up an uneven playing field to where there will be winners and losers, where you can rise from the bottom out of the ashes, but it'll be extremely much more of a difficult ride to the point where you have a system, we like to use the word rigged, but it's predetermined to have more difficult challenges for those who are in that minority, to where they often stumble and they give up, and that's how the game is laid out for those on top to maintain their power. So when we say systematic oppression or suppression, that is just simply a fancy way of saying the ruling class are creating a system of inequality for their own benefit.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. And a good way I came up with it last year was I came up with this quote or this idea. It's the American dream is not that everybody can be equal and rich, is that anybody can be equal to rich, but not everybody. Essentially meaning that anybody has the opportunity to become wealthy or rich, but not everybody can be rich. You know, if you're gonna have rich people, you're also gonna have poor within America. What evidence would you give to support systematic suppression or oppression and to show that it's a real thing?
You just know the whole plight of African American people or any minorities in USA, then you have evidence right there with the different systems of in the past. For instance, we all know Jim Crow. We know it's been politics and a lack of participation by those who are in positions of power. But the whole system has been set up from the very beginning from a basis of race, basis of sex or gender. So you have it class, there's an ideal, even religious affiliation has played a part in the forming of capitalism, where there'll always be winners and losers. On surface, it looks like there's cooperation in America, but really it's underneath the surface. This cooperation doesn't truly exist. It's really a competition, an unfair competition. So the rulers of society who have made the laws, once again, have always made it to benefit themselves. And the only way to stay on top is to make it difficult for anyone else to replace you. And so I think over the years, it's been evidence of just a lack of opportunity as a whole, not for individuals, but as a whole, for that the door has always been open to give the illusion that the American dream is real and anyone can rise. But when you compare groups from a group perspective, sociological perspective, not that of an individual, when you compare groups, the evidence is in the discrepancy, the deficit of those minority groups and how far they're behind, how they still haven't caught up despite years of opportunities. But once you get so far behind, you just can't catch up overnight. So the true evidence is when you compare groups and where these different groups are socially on the ladder of SES, socioeconomic status, it's not by accident that you have one group who's dominant at the top. So that's the evidence. The proof is in the pudding right there. When you look at the number of people who are disproportionately poor, when you look across different ethnicities, that is the proof in itself, and you will see it's a reason why that group that's been on top from the beginning is still the majority of people who find themselves in the upper class.
I completely agree, and I think an amazing point of evidence is the 13th Amendment itself, the one that abolished slavery. If you actually look at the Constitution and read through the 13th Amendment, it claims that slaves are liberated until taken into the judicial system and put it under court, essentially meaning that anybody that's convicted of a crime becomes a slave to the government and is essentially forced to do free labor. If you look at our prisons, you know, they make license plates say they work for the government for free, and at the end of the day, they come out with nothing. I think this is great evidence because if you look at also who a majority of people in prison are, you will notice that a majority of them are minorities, and a majority of them that do tend to break out of these tendencies tend to go back to the same system. That's why I like to call it systematic oppression. It's a cycle of getting out, going back in, getting out, going back in. And the reason I say this is because, you know, once you have a criminal background record or you have something on your record, it sticks with you for life. You could, you know, go out, get a new job, or attempt to get a new job, but they're going to always look at that background and they're always going to identify you as a criminal because of that one event.
Yeah, and I refer to these as societal traps by the ruling class, where they lay out this uneven playing field. Make it seem like the competition is fair, but you have the elite, you have the rulers, you have this group that's been in power who they are, quote unquote, the bourgeois. They are the capitalists. They are the people who have the power in society. They set the agendas. They state the goals for society, for what you should achieve for. They not only just set the goals, they set the means for how to achieve it. And they set it in a way where it's more difficult for some than it is for others, knowing that the difficulty that those who are disadvantaged will experience will fall short of accomplishing it. Therefore, it's rigged in their favor for them to stay on top. So there are traps along the way because they know when someone is at a disadvantage and they don't have the same opportunities, but they still want to accomplish the goal the way that everyone else is accomplishing the goal, who it may be a little easier to accomplish the goal, according to the rules that's made by the rulers, those in power. So therefore, if they can't make it the way that society says they should do it, they find another way to try to do it. They call it cheating. It's often defined illegal. The trap leads them in a pipeline straight to prison. To get rid of them, then they're no longer a threat. So like you said earlier, you look at the prison systems, they're disproportionately represented by minorities, ethnic groups. How is that possible when you have groups that represent less than a quarter of all Americans, but yet they are more than 50% of the entire
group of prisoners,
group of total institutions, the penitentiaries, the prison system. So the criminal justice system, once again, is ran by those who make the rules, and they're gonna make laws that favor themselves and make it harder for those who are at a disadvantage. But they know that those at the bottom, they're gonna try to accomplish the goals, and they're just waiting. That's why I call it a trap. And then they get rid of you to where, like you say, once you get that mark on you, you've been in the system, that you've been an inmate.
Sorry about that. We're running short on time, so I'll go ahead and get into our next topic. What do you believe is the best way minorities could break free from systematic suppression and avoid falling into that trap, falling into the system?
The best way is to truly acquire and build generational wealth. And often the means to achieving it is something that's not taught in the mainstream through our education systems. And once again, it's a lesson that the ruling class, the upper class, the bourgeois, those in the top 5 to 10% pass down to their children, and whereas those people who are in the disadvantaged positions, as I would keep referring to, they're in a system that teaches them to be a worker, to be an employee. And so the key is to learn how to become entrepreneurs, how to take control of your own destiny when it comes to economics, and not labor for others, because for so long, particular groups have been exploited from the very beginning of the formation of this society. And so now they're still at the mercy of those in power. They are paid for their labor, but they still can't survive without actually benefiting those who they work for. So my advice is, as a whole, there has to be a different type of education that takes place to where minorities, people who are at disadvantages, learn how to work for themselves.
Completely agree. I like to say that the best thing a minority can do for themselves is become well educated in any field of knowledge, not just the way school teaches you. And once you become well educated, you'll learn that the U.S. has a very mucky and bad history, and it kind of wakes you up that you don't want to essentially feed into that history or be a part of that history.
So it makes you want to break free from that.
Schools in America are still set up on the industrial basis.
For Rockefeller.
Yes, to teach people how to be employees. The whole idea is to appease the large, I call it the large minority in terms of power, but in numbers, outnumber those who are the ruling class elites, who are considered majority or dominant just because of their power and their wealth. So it's easier said than done, but education is the key. But it's not an education you get in public schools education. It's still on the industrial model, working for someone else, respecting authority, being on time.
Honestly, from a student that isn't in the education system and kind of realized this last year, what I've realized is the best way to break free from the industrial mindset is to build your schedule around your personal taste and your personal likes. If you come to school happy and excited about what you're learning that day, or if you know that it's going to benefit you in the future, then you don't necessarily think about the fact that you're at school, you get to follow rules. And I think that us as human beings, we need to start fitting more into our creative arts and our creative mindset instead of staying within the box or going within school and learning something and learning that that's the only way.
Everyone has a role to fulfill, and formal education is not the only education, and it doesn't suit everyone. But remember, who sets the goals for society, who sets the means for how you achieve it, it's all at their benefit. So, as we start off this discussion about those who are on the receiving end of the exploitation, of the oppression, of the systematic inequality, whether it's racism, sexism, etc., they have to work to improve themselves through education, but not the education of limitations for us having a employee or new age slave mentality is what it is. We're all caught up in the system. Easier said than done. Capitalism is the American way. It's the example of the world. It's fueled by a profit motive where there's greed. So there's always someone who's on top. The only way to stay on top is to make sure that it's very difficult for everyone else to get on top, to take your place.
Yeah, one last thought that I would invoke on minorities is that if you ever do get to the place of power, wealth, never forget about your people and never forget where you came from. I think that that's a tendency that minorities tend to forget. Minorities will get money or get wealth and they'll just spend it on themselves or blow it away. I think it's important to remember your roots, remember your heritage, and build up other people. A good quote I have for this is J. Cole's lyrics. He said, "I feel like a slave that somehow saved his enough coins to buy his way out of slavery." I think it essentially means that, he made a wealth, he accumulated a wealth that he's free now. But through this, he says, later on in the song, he says, "Why do I feel faker than snow on the bluff? Maybe it's because I know I'm not doing enough." I think that essentially this means that he feels in his heart that he's kind of forgotten about his people and he's let go of his people on the path of bettering his life and his family's. I think it's important to remember your heritage, where you come from, and to not only innovate and motivate and build yourself up, but build people up around you. I think we're getting to a point where everybody's a minority. Even in the U.S., white, black, Mexican, doesn't matter. If you're in the lower class of poverty, you're considered a minority, and if you're in a higher class of wealth, you're considered an elitist. It's gotten to a point where I like to say it's more division through suppression, and that people tend to believe more that money will buy you happiness and money is everything in life. But I think we need to step away from that and come back to our cultural roots and just benefit man and one another. I think that's the most important advice that I would give any minority out there that's trying to break free from the cycle.
Yes, well, no man, or should I say, no individual is an island. We all need someone. Remember the lie about free enterprise in the American system is that we think that we're learning to work together, that we network, we do need each other. But the collaboration that we think we're having is really competition embedded. And really individuals, they give only so much, because think about it, it's just not the way of capitalism. If you're gonna really have individuals helping each other out and it's all about group, then they will be moving more in the direction of something regarded as almost taboo by conservative today, and that is the word socialism.
Yes, sir. It's completely true. I think that it scares people, the idea that we should go back to small businesses or small communities, and I think it terrifies, capitalism, because our economy is based off of big businesses. But I think that's where the U.S. has gone south. The fact that our economy is based around, big businesses is why we have so many issues. Because if you base your economy off of big businesses, that big business is only worried about making more money,
Yes.
and they're going to go whichever way to make more money, even
That's
if it
it.
means suppressing people.
That's it. It's all about that mighty dollar,
Yes,
the
sir.
love of it. And we know it's an old saying that for the love of money is the root of all evil. Loving that money is what causes people to not treat everyone else fairly.
Yes, sir. All right, I think on that note, we're going to go ahead and wrap it up. I do appreciate our guests for coming on today. Hope y'all enjoy this podcast and hope y'all got something out of it. Y'all have an amazing day.